Spring flooding is affecting dozens of communities in 3 provinces today, and many are the same areas that were hit hard by rising rivers in the last 2 years. The St. John River in New Brunswick stopped short of last year's record-setting levels, but officials say communities along the banks should still be on high alert. The Chaudière River in Quebec's Beauce region is rising rapidly, forcing many from their homes. People in Montreal are keeping an eye on water levels. Soldiers are in high-risk areas, stacking sandbags to help protect residents from floodwaters. And high water levels on the Ottawa and Gatineau rivers are threatening many of the same neighborhoods they did in 2017.
I don't know, I'm gonna go move on top of a mountain or something.
Flood-weary residents in Quebec have spent the past few days piling up sandbags to protect their homes. More than 2,300 homes are already underwater. Some affected areas were hit hard by major flooding just 2 years ago. Officials say water levels are rising because of rain and warmer temperatures causing snowmelt. François Legault, the Premier of Quebec, is in the flood zone in Gatineau, Quebec, just across the river from Ottawa. He met with first responders helping people leave flooded areas and soldiers involved in sandbagging efforts. He's touring an area that has seen many floods over the years, and some residents of the area are hoping he can finally come up with a solution that gets them to homes on higher ground. Legault says the province is willing to help.
We'll ask we'll offer people $200,000 to be able to move. We don't want to waste the money of Quebec taxpayers, and at the same time, we can't really impose on people going through this type of tragedy every 2 or 3 years. So people are attached to their neighborhoods, such as this one. So the idea is whether we can really move these people as a group. That's something we'll be looking at. And we'll be working with the municipality on that.
And that's where the CBC's Olivia Stefanovich is right now. She's been talking with local residents about their latest fight against the floodwaters. So, Olivia, what are you seeing and hearing there?
So, Andrew, this is one of the worst hit areas of flooding in Pointe-Gatineau, Quebec, this neighborhood that the Quebec Premier toured this afternoon. I want to take you through this scene, what we're seeing here. So this is a road that looks more like a canal at this point, and this flood has been really unforgiving. If you look at the homes just on this side of the street, they are on higher ground, and they're not as affected as the flood is on the other side of the road where I am. And right behind me, you might be able to see is this blue building. It's the local church here, and as you can see, it's submerged in water. Now there is a great line of sandbags here and even tarp protecting the windows. People are trying to do everything they can to protect this property from further devastation, and that's been the case as we toured many streets, speaking to many residents here today. They are more prepared this time around because there was a really bad flood in 2017. In fact, the worst flood that this region had seen in about 100 years. So people are feeling a little bit more prepared in terms of sandbagging early, in terms of evacuating. About 50 homes have been evacuated in this area of Gatineau, but still it doesn't get any easier, Andrew.
You've been speaking with many local residents today. What are they saying about the battle with the water?
Well, they're saying not again. I mean, they went through this just 2 years ago. It was the worst flood they've had in about a century, and the water levels aren't quite as high this time, but there is fear that there will be a second round of flooding. And I had the chance to tour the properties of some residents who have gone through that flooding already, who went through that flooding in 2017, and they're preparing once again for water levels to get just as high. I want you to take a look at what we saw.
When you go down here, you can walk through.
There's already water here.
Yeah, you're okay here. So this is, last time we were here in 2017, this whole room was flooded. So they had to rebuild the whole room. This is probably $40,000-$50,000 worth of rebuild that they had. And this is the pump that overflowed. They just couldn't handle the water. So now we've got it so that it's, we've got extra pumps in here. They rebuilt the outside of the wall, but again, you can only control so much of the water. I mean, if it's going to come, it's going to come.
Andrew, people have lived in this region for about 200 years. This neighborhood is where the first settlers of Gatineau came about 200 years ago, so there hasn't really been much flooding until 2017 when we had that once in a century flood, and now again we're seeing flooding. So because of this recent flooding, some people are saying that they want to take up the Quebec Premier's offer to move to higher ground, but it is a touchy subject here. People don't want to leave their neighborhoods, but again, because flooding is happening, because water is creeping closer and closer to properties, they're saying maybe it is time to go.
Olivia, thank you. The CBC's Olivia Stefanovich in Gatineau, Quebec. The CBC's Anthony Naristan is in another area dealing with flooding. He's in Laval, across the river from Montreal. So, Anthony, how's the situation there?
Well, Andrew, it's certainly not as dire as elsewhere in the province, but, have a look. The streets are flooded here. I'm in the western part of Laval, and this situation that you see right now actually ramped up in the last day or so. It's getting a bit more difficult to get around, but you can see over there are residents stacking up sandbags. Members of Laval Police are currently just going door to door and making sure that people are okay and verifying the situation. But the damage so far has been limited. 20 flooded homes in Laval, which isn't much compared to 2 years ago. But at the same time, there's still a lot of work to be done, not just by the residents that you see there, but also by 400 blue-collar workers that are on the scene, as well as 200 members of the armed forces.
What they're doing, they helped residents build over 100 different dams. They have surveillance in the nighttime to see the rising of the water, and they closed off a lot of roads and parts of roads also.
And so, Anthony, what can people expect in Laval over the next few days?
Well, there's cautious optimism for now. Because of how the situation is now, and people here, they've gone through this before and they're comparing it to 2017 and saying so far it's not too bad, but Laval Police saying that the worst is to be expected as of Wednesday. That's when they expect the flooding to hit its peak, but they're going to monitor the situation as it goes. But I spoke to one resident earlier today, and she's kind of just taking it in stride, saying that there's no sense in panicking, especially given how Laval Police and other emergency crews have been there to help.
We had the experience 3 years ago, so we're taking one day at a time, hour per hour, because it makes no sense of being stressed out, not sleeping with the kids, the dogs, so we just have to we're more calm because we see that all the work that it's been doing and all the presence of the police and the firemen, the firehouse.
So no homes have been evacuated so far. The monitoring the situation, we'll have to see what happens if Wednesday or Thursday the situation ramps up, and maybe some people will have to leave their homes behind.
Anthony, thank you. That is the CBC's Anthony Naristan in Laval, Quebec. 5 days. That's the Environment Canada prediction for how long New Brunswick's lower St. John River could stay above flood level. More than 100 Canadian Forces troops have been deployed to help with relief efforts. In addition to sandbagging, they are doing wellness checks door to door. Provincial officials are telling people in flood-prone areas of southern New Brunswick to be prepared to leave their homes. One spot of good news, water levels around Fredericton appear to have leveled off.